Cell has just arrived onto the battlefield, making Piccolo terrified. 17 asks him if this weird bug guy is his cousin or something, and Piccolo yells that he needs to get out of here, right now. Piccolo collects himself and bursts into the Kaioken once again, even though he's tired from fighting 17. He powers up to the highest level that he can right now, though it is a much lower level than it could normally be due to how exhausted he is. Piccolo then charged at Cell, pouring all of his power into a punch, but Cell effortlessly flicked him away, and Cell began to slowly walk towards Android 17. Both 17 and 16 were shocked, and 16 knew he was not strong enough to protect his brother from whatever this thing is. 16 would be the same strength he was in the original, meaning he'd be much weaker than Cell here, and Cell himself knew this. Cell was then about to lunge towards 17, but stopped as he heard somebody yell at him. He turned, seeing Tien in the air, and laughed at the human. Tien then powers up into something new that he created, his true maximum. He goes into an extremely high level of the Kaioken, which we will call Kaioken Limit Breaker. He used this for one brief moment to fire an insanely powerful Tri-Beam against Cell. Cell's eyes widen as a giant crater is formed into the planet from this one attack, with the monster being sent deep into the planet itself. Tien, still with the stern look, then lifts his hands up. Energy begins to rise from all around the planet as Tien begins to charge a Spirit Bomb, with it becoming larger and larger with each second that passes by. Meanwhile, Cell's able to recover and is shocked that Tien, of all people, is able to do so much damage to him, but brushes it aside and flies out of the crater. He lands on the ground nearby, preparing to easily counter this. Then, Cell is shocked as Tien begins to yell, dropping his arms as he begins to absorb the Spirit Bomb, like what Goku did in the Super Android 13 movie, as his power skyrocketed to an entirely different level. Tien then yelled as he went into Kaioken Limit Breaker, this time his body being able to handle it since he was fueled by the power of the Spirit Bomb. Everybody on the lookout sensed this and was shocked by this power, and even Cell began to sweat a little. Cell then began to sense around as Tien continued powering up, using his overall better senses to find one of Jiro's drones, or I guess they were now his drones. Cell said to himself that he didn't want to use this now, but Tien has proved himself to be a credible nuisance. Cell uses the drone and injects the drug to amplify Slug's gene into himself. Immediately, his huge surging powers fell everywhere on Earth. All of the Z fighters over at Kame House, the fighters on the lookout, even Bulma, Chi-Chi, and the ordinary humans felt something strange change in the air. Slug himself looked horrified at this power, and just sensing Cell made him feel disgusted and sick to his stomach. Even the androids were knocked out from the mere shockwave of Cell powering up. Meanwhile, Cell laughed at this newfound power as his strength began to skyrocket beyond belief, screaming out as his power climbed higher and higher. Finally, he yelled out as a crimson red aura surrounded him, just like that of Slug's Super Namekian aura. Cell began to laugh more and opened his eyes, revealing them to be red, just like Slug's as well. Cell said that he should give this thing a cool name. How about Evil Namekian? Yeah, Evil Namekian Cell had a nice ring to it. Cell then looked up, his sharp red eyes connecting with Tien's as he floated into the air towards the human. The two stared each other down, Tien with a serious stern face, and Cell with an evil smirk. The two then lunged at each other, clashing all over the island. Red and blue streaks of energy clash overhead, causing massive shockwaves of energy to form and travel all around the planet. While they battle, Goku teleports down with instant transmission, down to a still unconscious Piccolo, grabbing him as he watches Tien and Cell fight overhead. He senses Cell's power, and realizes that Super Saiyan 2 might not be enough to stop him. Goku quickly disregards that, teleporting himself and Piccolo back to the lookout as Tien begins to get worn down. The energy from the Spirit Bomb is flickering from him, meaning he can't use Kaioken Limit Breaker for much longer. Cell then smirked as he begins to use more of his power, as this whole time he was really just toying with Tien. One quick note here, Present Cell would have actually been found and destroyed, so our Z fighters don't have to worry about that. Anyways, Cell bursts into Kaioken, not even really needing it, but using it to show off how vastly superior he was compared to the human now. Cell then flies at Tien, throwing one clean, devastating punch that knocks out all of the power out of Tien, sending him flying to the ground and out of Kaioken Limit Breaker, along with losing the power of the Spirit Bomb. Cell then lands onto the ground in base, looking for 17. He eventually finds 17 knocked out alongside 16, but can't find 18 anywhere. He says he'll worry about her later, and proceeds to absorb 17, becoming semi-perfect. His surgeon powers fell everywhere, even more so than when he injected the Slug drug into himself. Speaking of which, he'd have those same piercing red eyes as he did before, now enhanced much more with the power of what he called Evil Namekian. Evil Namekian's semi-perfect Cell then floats high into the air and pointed a single hand down towards the island. He charged a a red blast of energy, about to fire it to destroy the island along with 16 and Tien, as he had no use for any of them anymore. But then he felt someone punch him across the face and send him flying back. Cell quickly stops himself, seeing that Vegeta and Trunks have just arrived, having just exited the time chamber. Speaking of which, Goku and Gohan would then make their way into the time chamber, deciding that they need to find a way to go beyond their theorized Super Saiyan 2. They figured Super Saiyan 2 would probably be enough to defeat Imperfect Cell, but after sensing Semi-Perfect Cell's power, they realized it definitely would not be enough to stop him, and even more so, Cell managed to absorb 18 as well, and so they would have gone to the time chamber attempting to find a way to evolve so that they could stop the monstrous bio-android. Now back to Vegeta and Trunks, they stare down Cell in their Super Saiyan 2 forms, having completely mastered it. In the time chamber, Vegeta would have finally been able to unlock it, with both himself and Trunks mastering Super Saiyan 2, like how Gohan and Goku mastered Super Saiyan in Canon. Cell smiles seeing the two, stating that now he'll have something to test his newfound power against. He was pretty satisfied with his power now, but still needs his perfection. Trunks steps up to fight Cell first, with Cell laughing at his arrogance. Trunks yells as he powers up, blue electricity sparking around his golden aura, and Cell chuckles. Cute is the one word he mutters before he goes into Akari, his power multiplying tenfold as he stared down the future warrior. Trunks then charged in at Cell as the bio-android did the same, with the two insanely powerful fighters clashing. As they fight, Vegeta begins to think and strategize, trying to figure out how to evolve beyond their Super Saiyan 2 forms. Meanwhile, Cell is basically toying around with Trunks and is getting pretty bored. Cell begins to absolutely beat Trunks around, yelling for Vegeta to watch as he begins torturing his son. Vegeta finally has enough and charges towards Cell, but he's knocked aside with a simple backhand. Vegeta is knocked back, catching himself as Cell yells for Vegeta to watch this. Cell knocks Trunks back into his base form, pulling him up by his hair, holding him out in front of himself. Tell me, Vegeta, how much do you love your son?
No, don't do it, Cell!
Vegeta yells, trying to get him to stop, but Cell simply laughs at this. Did I strike a nerve?
Shut up!
The prince yells as his power explodes, along with his aura, lightning surrounding every bit of his body as his power climbs higher and higher with each passing second. Rage, anger, sorrow, and a flurry of emotions like nothing he's ever felt before completely encompasses the prince as he continues to scream out, his power climbing higher and higher, as if it would never stop. Vegeta grunted towards Cell, lightning sparking from his eyes as he gave a death stare towards the bio-android. Cell himself was actually somewhat scared of the power coming off of Vegeta, Vegeta, wondering if even his power will even be enough. Then, Vegeta lets out a primal scream as he charges at Cell, slamming him down to the island below, and this creates a massive crater that goes miles upon miles into the earth. Vegeta continues to yell, screaming out as he begins to beat the crap out of Cell. He completely throws Cell around, overpowering him to the point his punches are just taking off Cell's limbs. Of course, Cell is able to regenerate, but this leads to Vegeta just doing it more and more and more, making Cell use up a lot of his energy just having to regenerate. Even with the power of Akari, Cell is beaten around and can't do a thing about it. In a desperate act, Cell tries to stab his tail into Vegeta, but the prince simply grabs it and rips it clean off before he kicks him away. Vegeta then screams as his aura flares up even further, with blasts shooting out everywhere from it. All he can think of now is killing Cell, torturing him after having to witness the brutality and torturous death of his son. All other thoughts have gone out the window, with Vegeta having gone completely berserk from the overflow of power. And after finally having enough of beating Cell up, Vegeta begins to calm down, but he's still enraged. Cell sees this and tries to bargain with Vegeta. "If you let me live, I can promise I'll give you a proper challenge. Don't you want that, Vegeta?"
Why on earth would I ever let you do that? You killed my son!
Alright then. I didn't need your permission anyways. Cell said as Vegeta came charging in towards him, but Cell simply smirked. He yelled Solar Flare, and this attack blinded Vegeta, making him grab his eyes in pain as Cell went to search for 18. Krillin would have made the same decision to try and save 18 here, and at this point he's just completely flabbergasted and terrified at what's going on. He tries to get 18 out of there while they still can, but then Cell appears in front of them, asking where they think they're going. Krillin's paralyzed in fear, and Cell simply smacks him aside before he lunges at 18, absorbing her in one foul swoop.
Damn you!
Cell then began to yell as lightning bursted all around him, his power rising exponentially, with it being felt all around the planet. Vegeta was able to quickly regain his sight, seeing Cell beginning to evolve. He yelled out no as he charged in, throwing a massive blast at the bio-android, but it didn't do a thing. The sky went dark as the heavens trembled from Cell's overwhelming power. A bright green glow surrounding him, and it then shattered, revealing the birth of perfect Cell. Cell was mesmerized at his newfound power and looked up towards the angry prince who was charging at him again. Cell stood completely still, tanking all the punches and kicks thrown at him. The tides of this fight were completely turned into his favor as it had become a one-sided beatdown. Cell began to absolutely throw Vegeta around, beating him up way worse than he did canonically. Cell knocked Vegeta back into his base form and was just about to kill him, but decides not to. With him now being perfect, Cell just had the urge from Slug's gene to completely kill and murder everybody right now, but managed to push that urge down. Cell decides to hold the Cell Games so he can test the full extent of his perfect power, declaring that the Z Fighters have 3 days to prepare and train for the fight that will decide the fate of Earth. Now, if you guys enjoyed part 8 of What If Lord Slug was sent to Earth, then make sure to check out some of my other stuff as well. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.